Hello, Edward Zula here with you today. I'm going to do a little bit on getting warnings from Spirit. I've had so many inquiries about, thank you all for all of your suggestions and questions and all the good stuff coming from you. I have inquiries about warnings and how to tell the difference between, a warning and just a hello. Most of what we experience from Spirit, whether it be finding feathers, having lights flickering, third-party messages to us, people saying things to us that have significance to us that they couldn't possibly know, hearing a song on the radio, or actually smelling something, or all of these different possible signs, seeing something out of the corner of your eye, a picture falling over, all of these different things are ways that Spirit can communicate with us. Some people also hear voices and things like that, or yesterday was a special day in my life and I had a couple of interesting things happen. But the bottom line is that the majority of these signals that we're getting, these signs that are coming into us, are really just people on the other side in that next dimension saying hello, greeting us, letting us know they're around, letting us know they're with us, letting us know that they know we're thinking about them. It's unsettling to me that so many people, look, the anxiety level nowadays is extremely high. I talked about that in one of my previous videos. But it is upsetting to me that people think that when something happens, like a picture falls, or there's some kind of other thing that happens, like somebody mentions a name, they immediately think, I'm going to move the microphone, hold on. Hopefully the sound is better, and hopefully I won't keep clearing my throat. Pardon me. People tend to think that these things are warnings, that something dire is going to happen if they're actually getting a message from a spirit, or they need to be on the lookout or protect themselves. Let me say this. Warnings, I call them warnings and interferences, are pretty clear. Okay. Now, I wanted to give you a couple of examples of this to help you distinguish. The first one I'm going to give you is about a woman who was a client of mine, who was waking up at 3 in California, client in California, who was waking up at 3 a.m. several nights in a row in her new apartment, and she was seeing her grandfather in his fireman's uniform. And her grandfather had passed many, many years ago and had been a volunteer fireman in his youth. He was not an active fireman when he passed away. So she was really puzzled by this and had a very deep, heavy feeling in the way he looked and the way that she was awakened. It felt like something ominous. You can feel the ominous, heavy weight of that message when it comes to you. And it was happening several nights in a row. And she decided, just to be on the safe side, to check the smoke alarms that were in her apartment. And she went around and she got on a ladder and took them down and saw that actually the first one was disconnected. And then the second one was disconnected. And the third one was disconnected. All three of the smoke alarms outside of the kitchen, outside of her bedroom, and by the bathroom, all of them had been disconnected. So she talked to her landlord and left him a message or whatever she did. But in the meantime, she went out and she got battery operated smoke alarms and CO2 detectors. She installed them. This was within a short period of having the dreams about her, or the being awakened by her grandfather. She installed them, and 24 hours later, there was a fire in the building, and her alarms went off. And she totally attributes her safety, her being okay with, the building didn't burn down. It was the apartment underneath was having a fire, and the smoke was coming up, and it was coming actually through ventilation systems and in the hallway and whatnot. That's one example of a very, very clear warning, and the fact that he was presenting in his fireman's uniform. Another one was a woman who was driving with her husband and children off to a vacation, and they left their house in the morning and they were on the road, and she was flipping through the destination spots, and all of a sudden she has this image of her mother in their house. Her mother's obviously passed over, but her mother was in their house opening the windows, frantically opening the windows in their house, and she was jarred by this. And they're in this car, they're on this stretch of road, and she said, I just had the weirdest image popped in my head about my mom running around our house opening all of the windows, and it's so weird. And then she goes back to the book, and he responds, or whatever he says, it wasn't terribly acknowledging of her experience. And she turns to him a couple of minutes later and said, you made waffles this morning on the griddle. Did you turn the griddle off? And the car starts slowing down as he's braking, and he's saying, holy S, I'm not sure I did. And he turns that car around, and they get back home, and the griddle burners are up. He had not turned the griddle burners off. And they got freaked out, and they postponed their vacation. They were exhausted. The kids were spooked. But that visitation, that image of her mother running around the house, opening the windows, was definitely a warning to her. It was out of place. It made her feel uncomfortable. It didn't feel right. She was a little bit agitated by it. These are all the ways you feel when something is a warning. It's very different when you're sitting in your yard and a dragonfly lands next to you. Not the same feeling at all. Here was another example. And then I want to talk about interferences. Another example is something that happened to me a long time ago. It was in 1990, when I still had a landline and did not have a cell phone. I was awakened at 2 a.m. My phone rang, and there was a voice on the other end of the phone, and there was a lot of static. And the voice said, "Be careful of the burgundy car." And I said, "Hello, who is this?" And I said a name of someone that had recently passed away, and I thought that's who it was. It was just my feeling that that's who was on the other end of the phone, but like, you know, there are books and movies and all kinds of stuff about phone calls from the dead. Well, this sort of felt like that's what it was, because I'm getting this message, beware of the burgundy car. It was like, that was pretty specific. So, I went back to bed. I got up in the morning. I wasn't quite sure whether I had dreamed it or whether it really happened. And then when I saw the position of the telephone, I realized that I had actually gotten up and answered the phone in the middle of the night, because it was in a different position from where it usually was. So I was carpooling with some people to go to our office and where I was working. And I picked up the first person. The second person wasn't going to work that day for some reason. And so it was just the two of us. And I happened to say to this person, you know, I got this weird thing happen with this beware of the burgundy car thing. And he started making jokes about burgundy and the word maroon and so forth and so on. And so we're on our way, and we get a green light, and we're about to go through an intersection, and this burgundy car turns right in my path and stops because there are pedestrians scurrying. Now, this burgundy car was trying to get through a red light, but the pedestrians had already started walking, and I slammed on my brakes, and I fishtailed, and I wound up next to that car, parallel to that car. So, needless to say, I'd already told my passenger about the thing that happened, and I was, you know, I was very rattled, and we sort of sat. I said, I got to pull over for a few minutes. And he said, yeah, you know what? I'm going to the McDonald's. I'm going to use the restroom. So that was pretty much, that says a direct warning, and as specific a warning as you possibly could have gotten. And I will never forget that. That was quite extraordinary. The next thing I want to talk about are interferences. I've got a couple of notes here about interferences. Oh, okay. Okay, this happened to a friend and someone who is an ex of this woman is an ex of one of my friends, and we're still friends. And this happened to her, and her mother had passed from breast cancer, and my mom also had breast cancer. So we talked a lot about what that was like for us. Now, she gets a phone call from her physician confirming her physical, her annual or six month physical or something like that. And she was a little puzzled. She looked at her calendar. She said, I have that appointment down for 3 months from now. And the nurse said, well, no, you're in for tomorrow. We have you in for tomorrow at 11 o'clock. And she said, I'm looking on my calendar and I have a 2 p.m. appointment on this date. So the nurse starts looking in her calendar, and there's nothing there 3 months in the future at 2 o'clock. So the nurse goes, well, what do you want to do? So my friend says, would you please check back and see the date of my last exam? I just want to be sure that I'm not wrong. And so she looked back. The nurse says, you know, you're right. You were just here 3 months ago. And she said, I thought so. And the nurse says, well, what do you want to do? And she says, I'll come in. I'll just get, you don't have me down for 3 months from now, so I might as well just come in. I have the time. She went in, and they found 2 lumps in a physical exam that she had been missing doing her own body exams. they found 2 lumps that turned out to be cancerous, and they were caught extremely early. That's an interference. When someone on the other side changes your medical appointment, that's an interference. The other interference is a story that I told about a friend of mine who was trying to find her keys one morning so that she could get to work. And I told this in one of my earlier videos, but it's an example of interference where she couldn't find her keys, couldn't get to work, really, really stressed out, freaking out. It was early in the morning. Her husband had the job of getting the kids to school. They're fighting about the keys. She's looking all over the house. The 2 of them are looking all over the house. He takes the other car, and goes to take the kids to school, then comes back. She's already called into work twice and left messages and said, I'm going to be late. Can't find my car keys. I'm going to have to take, catch a ride to the train station, and then I'll be in. So her husband comes back from dropping the kids off. They're getting ready to get her stuff together. He's going to take her to the train station when the news on the TV comes on, and it was 9/11. And a tower had been hit. It was the tower that she worked in. And she and her husband, the way she told the story to me was that she and her husband just looked at each other and hung on to each other and cried. And then she went into the kitchen, and where she had already looked for her keys, there was a dish towel. And she said to her husband, honey, I said I didn't want to use these dish towels. They were from my sister. Her sister had passed on. And it was a gift that her sister had given them when they got married, and she just was holding on to them as a special thing. And she picked up the dish towel, and her keys were under this dish towel. And it made a believer out of her. So, okay, I've given you examples of warnings and interference so that you know the difference between a warning and an interference. And also remember that most visits are just, hello, I'm here with you, I'm very happy to see you, and they're blessings. They're just little visits, and the way we respond to them is hello, thank you, I'm so happy you're dropping by to visit me. Whether it's the cardinal that I might see outside my window, or yesterday it was a turtle, or be thankful, be grateful, express your gratitude, and express your love, and don't worry about these little visits being dire indications of something that might happen. You will know. You will know. Spirit does not mess around. When it wants to give you a warning, you will know it. Okay? Listen, I'm going to sign off with that. This has been a long video, and I've rattled on long enough. I love you all. Please take care. Continue to social distance. Wash your hands. Wear your mask until we're told we don't have to do it anymore. And then we'll all be safe. Look after each other, okay? Be well.